Great. So let me go to dun, 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 my camera, and I'm going to spotlight it so it's easier for you to see. So I have things here. I also would like to go over tomorrow the baking of your polymer clay. Notice that I do have some parchment paper here. I also have some cupcake wrappers here, which ultimately could be used for baking purposes. Please make sure if you did, I know at least one person, Oakley, I know that you baked yours, but I would like to recap on what you guys need to do. And I would also like for you to just double check and make sure at home they know what you're doing before you start the baking process. So I have my polymer clay. In this case, I have Sculpey. So this is the one I got at Hobby Lobby. They had tons of colors. That's right near my house. So if you are still needing colors, I will tell you right now, if you go there, I'd probably go sooner than later to a store just to make sure you can get your materials, just in the event that we go into more of a shutdown than we are at now. Okay, so, but they do sell it at Walmart, which is a grocery store too. So if you don't get to one of the arts and crafts stores, and let's say we go into a shutdown, then you would also be able to pick it up there. So I'm going to use, you could use 2 colors. I'm going to use 3, and I think I'm going to pull this last color. So in order to cut my clay, you can either use a butter knife, and again, if you're using something at home, just double check at home and ask. A plastic knife works just fine too. And I'm just actually working on a surface, which happens to be the vinyl. I could work on parchment paper if I wanted to. I could also work on just, let's say, a lid of something that's plastic, like a bigger lid, or even a paper plate. So you have a lot of options that are there. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I am softening my clay, and I am actually just squeezing it to make it really, really skinny. Notice the shape of them. I'm trying to keep them in more of a rectangular shape. I find that by manipulating it with my fingers, that's the best way to get started. I also have my handy dandy jumbo glue stick. I can use that as a rolling pin to roll it out. I picked something that doesn't have a texture on it. It's nice and smooth. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Okay, so you pick and choose what you want to see for the outside color. I just realized I have this yellow color. It matches my sweaterish kind of today. All right, and I'm going to put one color on top of the other. If you have 2 colors and only 2 colors, that will still work. You can continue that process right now if you wanted, but I'm going to add a 3rd color in, and then the same thing is going to be applicable. Okay, so I put my 3 colors, one on top of each other, kind of like a sandwich. Okay, so I have my 3 colors, you can see them. Now I'm going to just roll it a little bit more to make sure that they are nicely together. You will need some sort of a knife for this part, whether you use a plastic knife. I have an X-Acto knife, which I prefer to use, or you could use even like the butter knife, okay? Butter knife would be fine, so if I'll do one side with a butter knife. Okay, again, keep your scraps. This stuff kind of looks fun to me with all the different colors in it. So I want to keep all my edges nice and consistent. Okay, I can see that some of my mulberry color, that berry color, didn't fully go, so I'm going to just trim off a little bit more because I want to see all 3 colors. This also reminds me, it's one of the things I like making for Thanksgiving. It's the layered Jell-O. My family loves it. And that's what this reminds me of. I'll be making that for Thanksgiving. Okay, so now that I left this end for right now. What I'm going to do is I've decided I want this blue color on the outside. If I wanted to switch it, I could. All right, so I'm going to go with the blue on the outside. So this is kind of like if you have a sleeping bag or some sort of a blanket or towel that you've rolled, you're rolling it up nice and tight. So you're just rolling it and rolling it and rolling it some more. Okay, I am going to trim off some of this excess color so I don't see those other colors. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a slice. Okay, so I sliced it off. Now I'm using my thumb and I'm starting to blend that clay into each other. So I can have a little bit of a seam. This kind of reminds me when we were working with our other clay guys. All right, so this is what it looks like. Kind of looks like a hot dog rolled up. All right, and I'm going to roll it a little bit more. Now, depending on the size that I want for my bead will determine on how much I'm going to roll it out. I'm kind of taking a look at sizes. Like see how it's a little, oh, sorry, you can't see that. See how it's a little, all right, there's my camera, there we go. See how it's a little bit smaller now? I'm kind of liking that size. So I can go ahead, I'm gonna trim off the end piece because it just doesn't look nice. See how I have that mixture of all my colors in there? Looks kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice. And it's called a cinnamon bun bead because of the swirl. It looks like a cinnamon bun. Now, don't make these too skinny. Here's the thing, if you make them too skinny, when you go to put the hole into the bead, you'll have problems. So I am going to carefully slice. I don't want to use tons of pressure on it because I don't want it to smush my bead. Now look how awesome that looks. Doesn't it look cool? I love this bead. I think they look really, really sweet. Like this side definitely looks way better than the other side. So if it was me, I wouldn't use this side at all. I'd actually probably trim it off to make it look even a little bit nicer. Now I cut my bead a little bit thicker than I needed to. Oh, it'll look so much better. Like you can even just see it. Okay, a sharper knife works better for this, guys, than a dull knife. If you do have access to using an X-Acto knife and it's okay for you to use one at your house, that too would be a really good example of something to use. And again, you're just going to slice them so they're about the same thickness. I really like how the colors look with the 3 colors, but I've done them with 2. Okay, and 6 is the magic number. If you use enough clay, you can get all 6 of them using the same colors. If you would like to have it so you have some that have 2 colors and some that have 3, or even have it so some of the colors are reversed instead of having, in this case, blue on my outside, maybe I'd want either yellow or that nice berry color on the outside. All right, when you have those extra pieces, guess what, guys? This would be an awesome opportunity to take what's left, and you know what you can do with these? Ta-da! You can actually go ahead and you can start to make more marbled beads. So don't forget, these make really, really awesome gifts. So I can use that. It's not waste, it's not garbage, and actually I'm going to take my rings off. Keep in mind, you'll have a little bit of a film residue, and I'll go more into the marbled bead in 1 second. Before I do that, however, let's talk about the hole that needs to go into this bead. So it's not a bead yet because it doesn't have a hole in it. Remember, in order to make it a bead, you actually need to put a hole in it. So for that reason, guess what I don't want to do? I do not, and take a look at your screen, please, everybody. All eyes on the screen. Okay, I do not want to put the hole through this way because then I'm not going to see my design. I need to put the hole in through the side of the bead. So when I go to actually put it in, I am using a paper clip. You could use a toothpick too. Try to go through the center. And this is why you don't want them too skinny. If you make it too skinny, your bead's going to break. And then if that's the case, you'll need to make more beads. So I have my hole here at the end. See how nice and big it is? Okay, remember it has to be wider than the paper clip. So that's why I'm going in and I'm doing a little bit of a circle just to make it a teeny bit wider. If it's only as wide as your paper clip, when it's baked, you might recall what happens, guys. What's gonna happen is, unfortunately, the hole's gonna shrink and then you're not gonna be able to use your bead. So for your beads, when you're done with them, I like actually just putting them on a skewer. You could put them on a paper clip or, and string them that way. But remember, you don't want your colors to touch. You can even put them after your hole is in there. Remember, if you forget to put a hole in there and you bake it, you're not going to be able to add a hole in there. So these can go into little cupcake wrappers if you want, but you don't want them to touch. Okay, they need to be, that's why I have these spaced out. So a couple of recaps. So this is our cinnamon bun bead. All right, the plain bead is simply using just one color of clay, and you are going to shape it into, whether it's a circle, so it's a rounded one, it could be flattened, it could be, in this case, more of an oval kind of shape like this. It could be square. You get to pick the shape. Just keep in mind the sizes. These are not real big. Like let's say you would make it for a bracelet. You don't want them to be overly large because you just don't want anything that's too chunky. Plus you need to make quite a few beads. So we're not done after we make this series. There's going to be others for you to make as well. Okay, I'm going to just recap since I have this extra clay. So any of these scraps that I do have, you know, again, I can go ahead and roll them out. Like this stuff I'm going to save and I'm going to make more of the cinnamon bun beads. So I'm just going to keep that to the side for myself. So I really like making more marbled beads. And by the way, 6 is your magic number, but you may decide you want to make more and you might make some different sizes. So if you remember when I had my pieces together, I twisted them and I made something called a cane. It kind of looks like a candy cane. I'll put those to the side. So this was the beginning. I did it one time. And I believe this is where Mrs. Tasevsky said, you know, you can actually make your bead from this. I personally like to roll it out one more time. Give myself a little workspace. Roll it out one more time. And twist it a second time because it looks more like an actual marble. You can use 2 colors for your marbled beads. You can use 3 colors for your marbled beads. And like I said, you guys may find that this is a material that you like using a lot. Maybe you'll want to make some holiday gifts for people. Okay, so now I have this. Like, take a look at how nice that bead looks. Looks like a marble. By the way, these scraps, like see how I cut like just the end off on that one? You would never use this to make your cinnamon bun bead. It is way too skinny. You can't put a hole through it. So like this is just what I call scrap, but I can use that scrap to make fun things like this. So now that I have this, I can go ahead and put my hole in through here. And again, process, guys. See how I'm making the hole? I'm slightly twisting, turning my clay. I'm not scrunching it through really fast. And then I am carefully going through in a circular motion to make my hole a little bit larger. Ta-da! And I have that bead. Okay, so for recap for our beads, everybody, you'll need at least 6 of the plain. Make sure you make them in pairs. So like, let's say you wanted to do, in this case, I have 3, I have several colors. So maybe I have 2 in one color. I would want pairs. This is not a pair yet. I could have 2 like this, 2 in another color, so that way you have a total of 6. Your marbled beads, you are welcome. If you, let's say you started, and yesterday I did this bead for us together. Let's say I only had 4. I can use some of my scraps from my cinnamon bun beads. I can make more. All right, so that's going to be 6 or more of your marbled beads. And then you are going to have a total of 6 or more of your cinnamon bun beads for starters. Okay, you are still going to make more things with your clay. So please hang on to all of your scraps. Also know when you are done with them to make sure don't mix your colors. You can re-wrap them. And if this doesn't stay together, you can put it in like plastic wrap, or you could put it in something else for yourself, okay? And guys, I just looked at the time. I didn't realize how much time I spent doing that. But let me ask you this question. Hang on one second. I'm going to stop my